Welcome inside the headquarters. My name's Rory McGoran, and this is the fourth official episode of the Debrief. We got a great show for you this week as we welcome in veteran defenseman and one of the captains of the Generals in Cole McKenna. We also take a look back at the weekend that was, a pair of losses for the Generals in a frustrating weekend set, to say the least, against the Maryland Black Bears, and then what's in store for the Generals coming up, as well as the East Division standings are as suffocating as they get. There is no room for error. The Generals actually drop a place into fifth as New Jersey, who picked up back-to-back wins on the weekend, leapfrogged them into fourth. But some big games coming up for the Gens. We'll touch on that. But first, let's take a look at the the scores from around the week on Friday and on Saturday. So here are your scores from Friday night's action in the East Division. The Danbury Hat-Tricks pick up a big 3-2 victory over the New Hampshire Mountain Kings. The Rochester Junior Americans were victorious 4-1 over the Maine Nordiques. Maryland Black Bears and Ryan Deans with a 4-0 shutout victory over the Northeast Generals on Friday. The New Jersey Titans picked up a big 4-1 win over the Philadelphia Rebels, and the Johnstown Tomahawks fall 6-4 to the Elmira Aviators. We move ahead now into Saturday's games. Earlier in the day, the Danbury Hat-Tricks, 4 points for them on the weekend. Back-to-back wins, including this 3-0 shutout victory. 4 points for New Jersey, another win over Philadelphia, 4-2. The Generals failed to get any points in, well, we mentioned it. They were frustrating games this weekend. We'll talk about them a little bit. Cole McKenna also has some insight on the games as well. The Elmira Aviators and Johnstown Tomahawks get a split in the weekend as the Tomahawks pick up a 4-2 victory on Saturday. And then the Maine Nordiques and Rochester Junior Americans as well, a split. Maine coming out on top 3-2 over the Rochester Junior Americans. So before we break down the two games against the Maryland Black Bears, here are the standings on the Debrief. And you take a look at the East. Maryland secure a playoff spot after that Friday victory. They're the first team in the league to clinch the playoff spots now with 78 points on the season, including 37 wins in 46 games. The Maine Nordiques, with the split, they stayed 1 point up over Rochester. Rochester did leapfrog them for a moment there on Friday night, but Maine's in second with 59, Rochester in third with 58. Then you get a little bit of a gap, and this is where the suffocating nature of the standings come in. From 4, you can really go all the way down to 8, I guess, if you want to, with Philadelphia, but really 4 to 7, where 3 out of those 4 teams will make the playoffs. The New Jersey Titans are up ahead of the pack with 44 games played and 50 points. The Generals and Danbury with 48 points, albeit Danbury has played 1 game more. And Johnstown Tomahawks right now on the outside of the playoffs with 45 points, looking in through 45 games as well. Philadelphia, Elmira, and New Hampshire round out the standings. All right, so back here in the headquarters now. The Generals 4-0 loss, 4-1 loss in what was a weekend that led to high amounts of frustration, high amounts of penalties that were very swayed in one direction. And without being too critical, 17-2 were the total, 9-2 power plays in Friday night's game, and 8-0 were the power plays in Saturday night's game. And regardless, if you think it was unfairly called, the Generals cannot put themselves in a spot like that, especially against the Maryland Black Bears. And you got to give them their roses as well, as the Generals played on Valentine's Day in Maryland. They're an exceptional hockey team. They have weapons all over the ice, and acquiring Will Esterbrooks at the deadline, Christopher Crummich a little bit before as well from the New Jersey Titans, who went down with an injury on Saturday night. Hopefully that he's okay, but you can't be running into the penalty box, especially if you're going up against a team like Maryland, because they'll make you pay. They did. They scored the bulk of their goals on the power play. I believe just 2 even strength goals scored throughout the 2 games for Maryland. So the Generals, they like their 5-on-5 game, but when you're taking 9 penalties, a lot of them for unsportsmanlike, regardless if you like the calls or not, 8 penalties on Saturday, regardless if you don't get any. It's way too much to overcome. You're handcuffing, to 1, maybe 2 hands behind your back and trying to go up against the top team in the North American Hockey League. Were the calls agreeable? I would say no, just from trying to be an unbiased perspective, that it seemed that there might be, it got rolling one way and then it just never stopped. Don't want to use vendetta as a word, but once that ball was rolling in that way, there was no leash given to the Northeast Generals, and it was penalty after penalty after penalty. I believe that the Maryland Black Bears were on a 5-on-3 power play 6 times throughout the weekend, including 4 times on Friday night's game. There was a lot of ejections. There was a lot of 10-minute misconducts. There was even a yard sale from the Northeast Generals coach, Brian Erickson, who was ejected on Saturday night. Definitely got his money's worth before heading to the dressing room and throwing a couple bench items onto the ice. But once again, it's not a game that you can really pick apart in terms of the way that the Generals played. It's a game that you can pick apart in terms of the way that it just got out of hand in a uncharacteristic sort of nature from what you're accustomed to seeing from all parties involved in that game. So we don't actually have the highlights as well. You talk about uncharacteristic. We don't have the highlights from Friday night's game because there was multiple power outages actually in the broadcast booth. Had the stream go down a bunch of times due to them, and also during the power outages, 3 out of the 4 goals were scored. So we don't have those on video for you, but we do have the highlights, all the goals from the 4-1 loss on Saturday, and here are those highlights.
Right now, nothing going as Crummins quickly crunches Ipri to the boards, and Johnson throws a big hit there on a rear. And now Maryland with possession of the puck once again off the far boards. Chopped on goal, save made there by Gatto. Rebound, another great save, it's loose, and they score! Alejandro Blum. And Blum last night trying to hint into Pelletieri, far corner, out in front. Pooling kicks it out of the zone. Maryland mirroring their start to the first period here as Hinton enters the zone onside. Hinton to Sakura. Sakura lost his balance, going for the wraparound. Score! Ryan Franks on the backhand. Forehand, pulls it, and just shoves it wide. He had room if he was able to tuck it around that pad. Smith gets it now to Duncan. Smith changing positions here with Will Esterbrooks. Smith. In front, score! Josh Fournette on the power play, and Maryland back to Smith. Harrison Smith, near side Esterbrooks, back to Smith. Moving the puck well for Maryland, they just haven't put one in the back of the net yet. Shot deflects wide. Esterbrooks keeps it in. 20 seconds to go in the 5-on-3. Here's Smith. Toward the net, deflection save, made rebound, they jam at it. It's still loose in the crease, they score! Ryan Franks!
Gibbons couldn't chip it out. Maryland still with it. Now Andrew Gibbons has it for the Generals. Black Bears putting on some pressure. Markarian tangled up there with Hudloff. A lot of bodies going flying. No calls. Hinton enters the zone. Vincent Close. Back to Hinton. Beautiful move. Beautiful goal. Trey Hinton is second. It's 4-1.
Yeah, so back in the headquarters now. There you have it, the highlights from Saturday's 4-1 loss. A couple of other notes in that game. Alejandro Blum was the lone goal scorer for the Northeast Generals. A rookie, 2007 birth year with his 3rd goal of the season. But, not a bigger player, but definitely not afraid from getting in the thickness and the nastiness of the game. Someone to watch for the Generals moving forward 100%. And then Keegan Wilson, unbelievable is an understatement for how he played on Saturday. Yes, allowed 4 goals against the Maryland basically power play because they were shorthanded 8 times. But this kid made tens of highlight reel saves that you would maybe see once or twice in a game. He maybe made 10 to 15 of them to keep the game within reach throughout, well, basically the full 60 minutes. The Generals had a chance, 3-1 going into the 3rd period, just down a pair of goals, despite all those penalties. But, Keegan Wilson probably, even in a loss, one of the more spectacular games that I've seen a rookie goaltender play, and he was phenomenal. But at the end of the day, the Generals do lose both games. They lose their 4th place standing. A lot of that ground and cushion as well on the teams that are chasing them, like Danbury, like Johnstown, teams that they're going to play in the future. But whether they liked it or not, whether they thought it was fairly called or not, The Maryland Black Bears are the top team in the league for a reason, and there's just no recipe for success if you're running to the box 17 times in 120 minutes. So that is your recap of the weekend in those 2 losses to Maryland. And now to talk about it a little bit more, as well as his commitment to the University of Prince Edward Island, here is veteran defenseman Cole McKenna. Now, happy and welcoming in Northeast Generals veteran defenseman and one of the captains of the team, Cole McKenna. Cole, thanks so much for taking the time. How's it going over there?
It's good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Here, the official 3rd guest on the debrief. But I want to talk about this weekend first off. We broke it down in the first segment, showed the highlights from Saturday night's game. Obviously a frustrating pair of games to call, but I'm assuming a frustrating pair of games to play in as well. 2 losses to the Maryland Black Bears. Yes, they're a very, very good team, but what were kind of just your thoughts on the weekend set there in Maryland?
Yeah, going into it, we knew that we couldn't get into, a penalty kill type of game with them because they're lethal on the power play, and we were playing pretty good with them 5-on-5, and things just kind of got out of hand in that second period, and then it just spiraled down, and it was almost like the same thing the next night. We started up, took the 1-0 lead, we had momentum, and then the penalties came, and then the game just kind of fell from us because we felt like as a team 5-on-5, they only scored 2 goals 5-on-5 the whole weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And, we felt like that was huge for us. Like a top team like that, 2 goals, Brian came into our D room with the goalies after, and he was very, very pumped with the way that we played 5-on-5.
Yeah, 100%. And, penalties swayed in the favor or not swayed in the favor. It's not going to help you, like you said, against Maryland. But, you've beaten them before. You like parts of your game. And you can also look at the team and be like, we don't have, 2 of our top players. We're still missing some injuries, right? We were handcuffed a bit in the games with, the frustration and the penalty calls. You don't lose confidence in those games knowing that you are right there with them, slipped away a bit in terms of the penalties.
Yeah, I think our group understood that, we still came to play, and we showed it up, and things just kind of didn't go our way with the penalties and all that. And, there's still lots of good to take away from that weekend. It's tough going into that building. They got it's a good atmosphere, and it's hard to play in. And I think we still have a lot of positives to take from that, and then go into this weekend against Johnstown, which is very big for the standings.
Yeah, 100%. I do want to ask about the standings, but just one more question kind of about that weekend. You are not one to let, your emotions get the better of you. You're a very strong leader, both on and off the ice. In that first game, I believe it was, the second one, if you can correct me, but I think it was the first game. You got the game, and obviously frustrated. Was that just mainly frustrations, or being the leader you are, did you also feel in your head that enough is enough already, and I gotta say something and kind of speak up?
Yeah, that was initially my thought. I took a penalty and I went to the box. I knew that was probably a penalty, and then they called a pretty soft call on the ensuing power play on Ipri, and I just felt like we needed some sort of spark maybe, and I just let my emotions get the best of me. But yeah, it was something I don't really do a whole lot, but I felt like it kind of showed that sometimes it takes someone to do something a little different, change up the way that we were feeling, and it was like it didn't work out, but it was just more of a bit of anger, and Brian wasn't mad about it, so it was okay.
No, I mean, and knowing who you are, I it's not something you do every game. You're rarely one to speak up in a negative way about anyone. So yeah. Completely understandable. What did you think of Brian's exit? I've never had a chance to call what they call a yard sale, but he certainly got his money's worth too.
Yeah, I had never seen anything like that before. I know a lot of us got a good chuckle out of it. You could see in the video, Miz and Poole they're laughing pretty good on the bench. Miz had to get up out of his chair, and Brian threw his chair out on the ice. So I thought that part was awesome. Um, and he that's also him showing that enough was enough with the way that game was getting officiated, and he wanted to show how he felt, and he made it pretty clear.
Certainly clear. All right, you mentioned the standings because Johnstown picked up a win. New Jersey picked up a couple wins. It was already tight before. It's extremely tight now from
Mm-hmm.
4 to maybe 9 even, right? Uh, I ask Brian, every 10 games, how often do you look at it? And as the coach, I don't try to pay attention to it, right? We're going to take a game in and game out, and we know where we are. As the player, do you look at it more often than not just to kind of see not only where you are, but the games coming up and how big they can be in terms of 4-point swings? Or are you, okay with just not looking at it and knowing where you are like Brian?
Yeah, I think I like to look at it in stretches of games. I like to look at, who do we got the next 3 weekends? Out of those 3 weekends of games, we got to aim to get at least 4 wins. So
Yeah.
that's 8 points. And then you kind of try and set a goal on where you want to be. And when you get to those sets of games, then you can maybe go look at the standings and be like, okay, well, we got to catch up. Like I felt like the past 3 weekends, we haven't really done what we wanted to do, and that these next 3 weekends are going to be crucial for us, with Johnstown, um, Jersey, and then Danbury, I believe.
Potentially, it might be Rochester before Danbury, and a main game
Oh,
mixed in
okay.
there too. But it's definitely wrapping up February is Johnstown and Jersey, which are the two teams closest
Yeah,
to you in the standings. So yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, makes
yeah.
perfect sense. So for the team, yes, you haven't been at full strength. You've rattled off 10-game point streaks. It's been a little bit up and down at times, trying to find consistency. Knowing that the remaining 14 or whatever games are big for the team to secure a playoff spot, which you're currently in. Just as a captain, what do you think, is one of the main focuses just to finish out the 14 games with a positive mentality and just the way you guys want to play leading into the postseason?
I think we need everyone to kind of understand what playoff hockey is like in juniors, and it's not about going out there and trying to score. Like, we need all four lines to have different identities, different roles. Every guy has to know every night what they're going out on the ice to do and nothing else. And I think that's something that we're slowly working on with, our first line to fourth line and our first deep pair to third deep pair. Like, everyone's starting to understand that, tonight I just got to go out, chip pucks, get the red line, forecheck, and then get off the ice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's little things like that, and trying to help out the younger guys understand that, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be simple. It's hard, and it's not going to be easy.
No, 100%. And finally, before we wrap up, your commitment to UPEI up in U Sports, back up in Canada, where we're both from. Congratulations, first of all, by the way, and just how
Thank
nice is
you.
it to kind of get that and know where you're going and have the weight off your shoulders and just kind of how excited you are.
Yeah, I went out and visited in the summer. I have some family. My mom's side of the family is from PEI, and I was visiting my grandma, and I got into contact with the coach and went out for a visit. And pretty much from then, I kind of had it in the back of my head that I was probably going to go there. And then, we had the showcase and everything, and talked to a couple schools from down here. But at the end of the day, it made more sense for me and my family to go there. And I felt like it was somewhere where I really wanted to go. And the pressure of the feeling of having that commitment solidified pretty early on, because I verbally committed there in December, I want to say. So it's been a couple months now, and the relief of not having to worry about texting and setting up calls and trying to set up a visit with someone, it's unbelievable. And I tried to help a couple of the other guys with that, and it's like, just try and get it done, and you'll feel a lot of a relief.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was big news, so congratulations. Obviously, you guys play Johnstown. You kind of talked about it, how big the game is. Are there some keys going into it that you haven't mentioned yet, that the Generals got to do? I know it's family weekend as well, so a lot of the families are going to come down for those 2 games at the Canton Ice House, which is good to see. But just kind of to get the job done and give yourself a little bit more cushion than what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, I think we can kind of go back to that New Year's series where we played them, and we got the sweep in their barn. I think we understood that we don't really have to worry about certain plays and certain things that teams do, and we need to just worry about our system, our structure, and as long as we keep it simple and play within it, that we've shown that we can beat anyone in this league. And I feel like that's something that we're going to harp on pretty good this week in practice, and it'll hopefully lead to some success this weekend.
All right, big thanks to Cole McKenna for joining us this week, and congratulations once again on his commitment to the University of Prince Edward Island up there in Canada and in U Sports. So we're going to wrap up the show with showing you what's coming up next for the Northeast Generals, and it is big games. As take a look, the Johnstown Tomahawks are in the Canton Ice House this coming weekend, should say, Friday and Saturday. Mark the start time for Saturday, a little bit of an earlier one at 5:30. Friday night's game at 7 p.m. The Johnstown Tomahawks, that's going to be the Generals' family weekend as well, so a lot of the families are coming down to attend the game. Should be a good crowd, and 100% going to be a great game, as we'll give you your standings just to kind of recap it as well with what's at store. And then to wrap up the month of February, the Generals are back on the road, and they will head to New Jersey. That is the team ahead of them now, just passed them this weekend with 50 points, and there will be 4 games remaining, all 4 in New Jersey as well, between the Generals and the Titans. So here are your standings. One more look, as you got the Northeast Generals now in 5th place, 1 spot above the final entry into the playoffs that Danbury currently holds. The Generals will play Johnstown, who are 3 points out. So huge game against Johnstown this weekend. Then they'll go to Jersey, who are 2 points ahead. So we could be looking at this with a little bit more fear after the weekend, or with a little bit more comfort and cushion for the Northeast Generals if they're able to take care of business over the Johnstown Tomahawks this weekend. That's going to do it for us here at the Debrief. Big thanks for everyone that watches these shows, follows along, comments as well. Really, really appreciate it. Big thanks to Cole McKenna for joining us this week. Generals unable to do any damage in Maryland in 2 frustrating games that we talked about. They'll throw that out 100%, hopefully, and turn it to Johnstown here at home. For everyone watching, thank you for watching. This has been the Debrief.